Tiago, thank you very much for joining us here on Crypto World.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to finally do this in person.
And I'm sure you have been very busy as Chief Product Officer for Tools for Humanity, which is a key contributor to Worldcoin, now known as World. And we'll talk all about those new developments in just a bit. But first, I want to focus on the topic of privacy. Last time we spoke was about exactly a year ago, and we spoke extensively about this topic as several countries, including Spain and Portugal, placed temporary bans on what we see here, that controversial iris scanning device called an orb. And Hong Kong, another example, forcing Worldcoin, now known as World, to cease operations in the region. So I'm wondering what's going on right now with all of that. I believe Hong Kong still doesn't allow World to operate in the region. And I understand, I read recently that Tools for Humanity actually filed a lawsuit against Spain for not complying with the rest of the EU and working with authorities there for over a year. So despite that, still no resolution there. What can you tell us? What's the latest?
So I think first it's very important to understand that there is no ban for Worldcoin anywhere. Generally, anywhere where we operate, where you can go and verify an orb, we're always working with the authorities to make sure that they understand what is happening and that they do that even before we launch. Now, the project sometimes grows so much on a given country that the government has to go in and make sure that what we're saying of how the system works is actually in fact how it does. Most of the times they can do that while we continue operating. Every once in a while, like in some of the examples that you've mentioned, the governments will actually ask us to pause while they're able to review that before we can return to operations. Right? So for example, in the case of Portugal, we're back operating in Portugal. And so some of these cases take a little bit longer than others. But in general, every time we've gone through this process with a government, they verify that in fact what we say is true, which is your data gets deleted from the orb, only you have access to your data, and you can use World ID fully anonymously.
And what's the latest with Spain? I don't know if you are allowed to even talk about it, given there's a lawsuit in the mix, but what's the latest there? Is it in fact operational again?
So the truth is, I personally don't know. I focus only on building our products and making sure they reach the people. So I honestly don't know what's the latest with that.
Now, when we spoke last year, it seemed like we saw all these headlines all the time about these privacy concerns, the different regions banning these orbs. But now it seemed to have subsided a bit. So clearly, Tools for Humanity is doing something right. But I did see something recently involving Brazil, authorities there deciding to uphold its restrictions on crypto compensation tied to the World ID project. And it also decided to not accept the petition from Tools for Humanity for their request to see that ban. So what exactly is going on with Brazil, and what are you doing to quell some of the privacy concerns tied to these orbs?
Yeah, so again, I think as you say, we've been growing a lot, right, over the past year and launching a lot of new countries all over Europe, Latin America, Asia. And I think it's normal that some of these will have more questions than others. So without getting into Brazil specifically, I think I'm just really excited that just over the last 4 months, the network has almost doubled in size. And so we're seeing unprecedented levels of growth, not just for crypto, but for a consumer product like this one. This is something that is needed right now in the world. Consumers understand that, companies understand that, regulators understand that, and we're seeing huge support from all over the world to get this done.
Does that have to do with the fact that you went through a rebrand? Instead of Worldcoin, now the project is known as World, and with that came an updated iris scanning orb, which we see right here. So how is this orb different than the original?
Yeah, so this orb is meant to make it much more accessible for everyone around the world, right? One of the things that we think a lot about is how do we put an orb within 15 minutes of any person that wants to verify? Right? And so this orb is not only a lot easier to manufacture, so it allows us to make more of them, but it has a couple of cool new features that make it more approachable for people. The first one is this one. Actually, we can put on stands on places like convenience stores or malls, just like an ATM, without a person next to it. So you can simply walk up to one of these orbs, and in what we call self-serve, you can connect your phone to it, and then your phone guides you through the process so that just like a photo booth at a mall, you can yourself get verified. The other cool thing you will be able to do with this orb is what we call orb on demand, which is like right from your home or from your work. You can simply go on an app and say, you know what, I want to get verified right now. And then a driver will come to you with this orb, will verify you, all of your data gets deleted, and then the driver leaves. And so a lot of what we've been thinking about is to make sure that this network is able to reach as many people as possible, is we want to make the orbs as accessible as possible.
And where do these upgraded orbs exist currently?
Yes, so these ones are actually about to go live into the world. We showed a preview of them last November, and we announced that in the first half of this year they would go into production. So we're gearing for that, and hopefully very soon you'll start seeing them pop up all over the world.
Now, we have seen some competition pop up. One example that comes to mind is the Humanity protocol. They actually use palm scans instead of iris scans. What's your reaction to the fact that now there's competition in the mix? Essentially, what they're trying to do is to ensure real humans participate in online spaces as opposed to bots, which is, of course, a huge goal for Tools for Humanity. So what's your reaction to all of this competition, and how does Worlds compare to the competition?
Look, I think that when we started working on this almost 6 years ago, it was very controversial to say that AI was going to break down the internet and that we were going to need to be able to tell between a human and a bot. We've really believed back then, and I think we've started seeing all of that play out, right? Whether you go to online gaming and you're trying to play but someone is cheating with bots, or you go to dating apps and you all of a sudden realize that the person you're talking to has 6 fingers and it was not actually a person, or Taylor Swift puts out her concert tickets and they all go to bots. I think now we're all understanding the importance of being able to tell what is a human and what is a bot. We've been working on the project for more than 5 years. We've tested many different ways, and after all of that time, we really think the thing that is the most privacy preserving, the thing that's the most secure, and that is inclusive, that you can actually scale across the world, is something like the orb. So we're super comfortable with that.
So you're not deterred by any of this competition at all?
Not at all. I think if anything, we're really excited to see that other people are realizing that this is a big issue, and we're very confident that this is the right way to solve it.
Now, when we spoke back in April of last year, there was a big announcement at the time involving a new L2 blockchain called Worldchain. Well, 6 months later, in October, that blockchain officially launched. So now that it has been a few months, how's it going so far? Is there a demand for this blockchain? And how are verified humans prioritized over bots on this blockchain?
Yes, so Worldchain has been a huge success. We launched it in October after announcing it earlier last year. And it is now already the second largest Ethereum layer 2 out there by user operations, which is just crazy. We're really excited to see that all of the people that are joining the World Network are not just joining, but they're actually sticking around and they're using a bunch of applications that developers are building every single day. And the cool thing about these apps is that, unlike other things in crypto, which are very focused on power users or crypto native users like myself, which is great, most apps on Worldchain, on the World ecosystem, they're focused on actually being simple enough and useful enough for people in their real day-to-day lives. So these are things like being able to take out a loan or being able to do payments across the world. So we're very excited by how that's going. And in big part, we think it's gone well because Worldchain has a couple of tricks up its sleeve. Because you're able to verify as a real human, we're able to give priority to humans on the blockchain. So what that means in practice is that when you do a transaction, that transaction gets pushed to the front of the line. It's almost like a VIP queue for humans, where all of the other transactions from bots have to go after you. So even if the network is congested at any point in time, like it happens with blockchain sometimes, the transactions for humans always go through. And the other one is same thing for gas fees, right? A really annoying thing about using blockchains is that you have to pay a little bit for every transaction, but you actually have to be depositing money to do that, and it's a bit of a pain. And so with Worldchain, well, if you are a verified human, you can simply use that blockchain for free, which is great for users.
Now, you have also been working on what's called World Chat, and I understand it's kind of like a WhatsApp meets Venmo type thing. And of course, it lives on the crypto wallet World app, which is on the blockchain Worldchain. So can you talk to me about how this all works? I also understand that you can send and receive crypto and stablecoins like USDC using World app. So how does it all work, and how did the idea even come about to begin with?
Exactly. So the way to think about it is World app is a super app for humans in the age of AI. You can have your identity there, you have your wallet there, and you have your community, meaning your contacts. And now all those things come together into something we call mini apps, which are third-party applications that you can run right inside of World app And we have hundreds of developers building these things and millions of users using mini apps every day. One of these mini apps that we released earlier this year is World Chat, which is a really cool application. It's very simple. It's a chat app like WhatsApp, but it has a couple of interesting properties. First, when you're talking with someone, you can know whether they're a verified human or not. And so that lets you know, like, hey, this is probably a scam and you should be a little bit more careful because this is not a verified human when someone texts you. But then also, just like when you can attach a picture or a voice message, you can also attach money on a message. And so without needing to know anything about crypto or blockchains or gas or anything like that, you can simply say, hey, I want to send $10 to my friend in Italy right now. And by tapping one button in a single second without any fees, those $10 are now in Italy with your friend.
And how can people feel comfortable knowing that sending money this way is in fact secure?
Yes. Well, World App is a fully self-custodial application. That means that both the keys for your wallet and the keys for your World ID are stored locally only on your device, so only you have access to that.
Now, World is also getting into the gaming space, partnering with a lifestyle brand for gamers called Razer. And the goal is to help people engage in a human-only gaming experience. So how did this partnership come about and how does that work exactly?
Yes, so we've been hearing for a while from not just gamers, but also gaming studios that they're really concerned about what bots are doing to gaming. We recently ran a survey in the United States where more than 70% of people report that bots are ruining online gaming. And the more concerning things, especially for studios, is that more than 20% of those gamers have just stopped gaming because it's not fun anymore. And so we got together with Razer, which is obviously one of the largest gaming companies in the world. They have hundreds of millions of users around the world. And they said, well, what if we use World ID to be able to enable things like gaming servers that are only for humans, or specific tournaments that are only for humans? Or maybe you can have items in your games that are exclusive for humans to start incentivizing people to verify. And so we announced that 2 weeks ago. The reaction from the community has been amazing. And there's already one committed game coming out. It's called Tokyo Beast that is coming out in a few weeks that will be supporting World ID. And hopefully there will be many more like that in the future.
So obviously World is getting into gaming, but what else can people expect from World? What else is in the pipeline? You mentioned dating apps earlier as an example. Can we see verification for dating apps, for example, through World?
So I think that in the midterm and the long term, you will use World ID for every single thing you do on the internet. Whether you're talking about social networks, right, where like clearly paying $8 a month doesn't solve the problem of bots, dating apps, concert tickets, financial services where the financial companies need to know whether they're giving that loan to a real human or to someone that's using AI to defraud them, right? Every single thing we do on the internet relies on trust. And for that trust to exist, you have to know whether something is a human or a bot. And so World ID solves that, and it solves this in a way in which you can remain anonymous as you do all of these things.
Last question for you. What was the main reason behind the rebrand back in October from Worldcoin to World? Did those privacy concerns and all the headlines tied to Worldcoin, did that play a role in the rebrand at all? What was the impetus behind that move?
So the rebrand was very simple, right? The Worldcoin token actually still exists, right? But as the project has grown, there's been more and more pieces that have gotten released, things like World ID for you to be able to verify on the internet, things like World Chain, things like World App, things like World Chat. And so it just made sense that the network overall would be called World, while each of the pieces was a subset of that. So it's simply just a reflection of how the project has grown, how the mission has continued to get expanded. And so that's why we were really excited to announce the updated brand.
Tiago Sada, Chief Product Officer with Tools for Humanity. Thank you very much for joining us here on Crypto World in studio.
Thank you for having me.